£800 a year on new e-waste, not e-waste, sorry, electronics, which will then at some point become waste, which amounts to, sorry, let me just get my numbers right, yes. So, that equates to 1.4 million tonnes of electrical goods. So in the next 6 years, 10 million tonnes of electronic products will be brought into the UK. And it's not just about that we're bringing a lot of stuff in, it's what's actually inside that stuff. And there's a huge amount of metals and precious materials going into this stuff. So in that 10 million tonnes, that will include an average of 20 tonnes of gold, 400 tonnes of silver, and 7 tonnes of platinum metals. So you can see there's a huge amount of our Earth's resources, precious and valuable, going into this stuff. So we're just going to have a quick look at what's in this stuff. This is the periodic table. I'm not a scientist by any means, don't quiz me on this because I won't know the answer. But what I do know is this shows the sort of key elements, the building blocks that make up most of our stuff. So for example, our mobile phones, which got about 40 elements and all comes from here. If we look at this version of the periodic table, this shows the supply risks of these elements. So the blues and the greens means that we've got a comfortable amount left in the world, and we're in no danger of running out. However, the reds and the oranges show the elements that we've got a real supply risk. So if we keep using them in the way we're using them, they will run out. No question about it. Nat touched on this issue slightly earlier. It's not just how much we use, it's where it's coming from. So we're currently shipping in tons and tons and tons of these electronic goods, and we're using, when it gets there in their life, a lot of them then leaving the country again, meaning we're losing all of those resources. And this, you can see on this sort of concentration of where critical minerals are mined from. You can see that Europe has got absolutely no arrows coming from it at all. China currently owns 97% of the world's rare earths, yes, always get that wrong. So there's a huge economical supply risk that we're landing ourselves in by not containing any of this resource within our economy. But aside from that, there's also the human element of this. So where actually is this stuff coming from? This image is from Fairphone, an organisation called Fairphone, who tracked where all the elements in our mobile phones came from. And this led them to the Congo, DRC. And this is the coltan mine, this image. So coltan is a mineral that tantalum comes from. Tantalum is used in every single one of our electronic devices to make capacitors. So it's what helps make our devices smaller and smaller and smaller. So it'll be absolutely everything. And tantalum often comes from places like this. So the figures of tantalum, the official figures of the amount of the worldwide tantalum that's exported to the Congo is something really small, like 5%. But it's estimated that anywhere between 60 and 64% of the world's tantalum is coming from the Congo, mines like this, because it's so valuable, it's in so much demand that it's being illegally mined. Lives are at risk. It's a really dangerous procedure. So beyond the monetary, what's in our stuff, what actually goes, what is in our stuff, who is putting it there, and what lengths are they going to? So what happens to our stuff when we're finished with it? That's what's in it and where it comes from. What about when it's come to the end of our life with us? So this symbol, I'm sure you've all seen it on most of your electronic devices, it's the WEE symbol, W-E-E-E. This was some legislation that was brought in 2006, which says that anything with this symbol on that you buy, it's the purchaser's responsibility, the supplier's responsibility to then recycle that. So you can buy a washing machine, you can buy a TV, you can buy a mobile phone, and you can, at the end of its life, take it back to where you bought it from. It's their responsibility to recycle it. But at the minute, only 33% of our e-waste gets recycled. That might be through this. Councils are also doing a lot of work around WEE. I know my council has introduced bins, like black bin, we have blue bins for specifically the e-waste. So there are lots of ways to recycle, but only 33% of our e-waste is being recycled. So what happens to it when it does get, like 33% when it does get recycled? We've been going around the country for the last couple of years visiting lots of different sites who treat recovery in very different ways. There's loads of really innovative things going on and different ways to deal with this e-waste. So this is a facility called Sweep in Kent. And they were getting loads and loads and loads of old cathode ray tube TVs, so the TVs with the big dome screens that are really deep before LCD TVs came in. And the glass in those TVs contains loads of lead, so per each TV on average has got 1 kilogram of lead in that glass, and there was no way of getting that out of the glass, so there was a huge amount of lead just going into waste that has a huge amount of value to it. So they developed this furnace, and there's only this one in Australia, so it's a really innovative way of putting it out, which chuck in the glass and it heats up. I'm not, again, not a scientist, don't quite know the ins and outs of it, but it separates the lead from the glass. Then I get loads and loads and loads of lead that they can then sell on. The glass is still a little bit of a problem, it's left in a sort of black colour, so they can't reuse it. It's still got a slight trace of lead in, so there's very little things they can use it for. But at the minute, what they're doing is making it into these sort of pebbles, these like black glass pebbles, which are being sold through garden centres as sort of garden decorations. Which is, it's great that it's being used, but there's what more can we do to make this a better system? And also the problem these guys are having is now they're guessing they've invested all this money in this system, and now they're getting less and less and less of the CRT TV screens coming in because everyone's upgraded already to LCDs, so they need to move on to the next innovative way. So this is a very sort of money-driven centre here, and then we've got a very different sort of service here with Recycling Lives in Preston, and they operate their recovery centre as a social enterprise model. So they train up local unemployed people to take apart e-waste, to recognise the valuable parts, to repair it, to sell on the valuable bits. So you can see there's two very different models there, one that's very money driven and one that's sort of very community driven. So there's loads and loads and loads of ways to recycle our waste. But that's only 33%. So what's happening to the rest of it? A huge amount of it is unfortunately ending in places like this. This is a picture that Greenpeace took as part of their campaign. And so much of our e-waste is being either sold to foreign countries or illegally exported. And then, in Africa they don't have the furnaces that will separate the metals from the plastics. They're burning everything, and it's hugely toxic, very dangerous for people who live there, just to get these tiny, tiny bits of precious metals out of our electronics. So what can we do to make sure this isn't happening? If this is going, if our electronics are going to be shipped overseas, how can we make it so that people aren't putting their lives at risk to get those elements out of them? So we're going to focus today on the humble mobile phone, which I'm sure every single one of you has got with you today. If it's on the table, I recommend putting it away now before it gets torn to pieces by accident. So mobile phones are something that absolutely rule our lives now. We've all got one, I'm sure. If you don't, well done, I don't know how you live without them. But not only do we have them, we're constantly looking for new versions of them and upgrading them. So every hour in the UK, every day, 1,000 mobile phones are upgraded or replaced. Huge amount of mobile phones. So I said 33% of e-waste gets recycled, but only 3% of our mobile phones do. So it's a tiny percentage. 44%, so that's nearly half of all our mobile phones we just keep, and they're just sitting in drawers and cupboards at home. I'm sure most of you are guilty of it. I know I was until I started working on this project. Which means that there's about 85 million what we call hibernating phones in the UK. So it's just, all our phones contain these precious elements. They contain gold, they contain tantalum, and we're just locking those, untapped resources away in our phones. So I'm not going to tell you too much more about mobile phones now, but what I'm going to do is split you up into groups of 3, which you are already pretty much sitting in, which is perfect. So each group of 3 is going to get an old handset, which has been donated to us, and it's going to be your job to take it to bits. We are doing this for a reason. While you're doing it, I want you to have a look at these questions and have a think about it. So, what tools do you need to take the phone apart? How far into the phone can you get? How difficult is it to get into it? And how repairable do you think that makes the phone? And what materials do you think are in it? How many different materials can you find? And what elements do you think are in it? And if you feel like having a go with our element pack of cards and seeing what you can find in there, please feel free. Be very careful of fingers and eyes. If something's not unscrewing easily, don't force it. Don't want to have any lost fingers. But, so we're going to spend about 15 minutes doing that, and then we're going to come together and see what you've learned. Okay, so I'm going to hand up to I'm not
training to design to get
I've read it yesterday, so I thought I'd bring it on.
Thank you, that's really sweet. Do you want to swap?
You find tutorials in YouTube how to change the battery yourself. You know, there are people doing that. Maybe you have the guts of it, but it's not that complicated. Now, if you want to try. I did once with my previous iPhone. I changed the battery myself. Yes, it's not complicated because you can find everything, and if you have a problem, you contact someone who can like you. But yes, I did that one.
Beautiful. Whatever you want. If you sort of do 2 or 3.
Yeah, we need a tiny little
You see it?
It's like a Phillips.
You now feel it. That's good stuff. This one.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see.
Is that one?
This is magnetic.
Take it as much as you can without breaking. Sometimes there is no. I'm
I can't see anymore.
Probably. Can you remove this? Go out.
Hello?
the whole day.
Reassembly.
That's the easy bit there. More difficult is putting it back.
Now what? It's hard to see if the light isn't great.
Before you start doing
That should do it.
You remember a TV series called MacGyver?
So again?
MacGyver, a TV series.
Not very well, no.
Okay, so basically we're doing now a printer with this. Put this together to a printer. It was very good because you can make a piece of bubble gum, a spoon, and I don't know, a battery, a bomb.
Let's take some time to put these things together because it's so fiddly all of I still can't get the next bit Are these put together by humans or by machines? So I can't machine went in to do all these tiny things.
Later someone will
I can't see any more screws, but I'm not down to its constituent parts.
Oh, you're wearing a normal costume?
Yes.
I don't know.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. I've had it for years.
Was it a Top Shot one?
It was about 600 years ago.
Yeah, she did a really nice line for them, and then the whole thing went wrong with the factory in India didn't deliver on time, and she lost all her money, and her business went bankrupt. So sad, yeah.
Is she okay again now? Is she back?
Owes loads of money. And so she's now just not doing fashion anymore, she's doing like embroidery workshops and gone back to being an artist. I've got a couple of things like that.
I've got another, it's a dress that I found in the charity shop actually, and it was her, but not Top Shop, just her. So I got kind of, I just love it because it looks like a kind of a normal, it's kind of, I can wear this with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you look closely, you've got your character going, I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's such a shame.
Thank you.
Top Shop doesn't help out.
No, Top Shop sharks really, when it comes down to it. Yeah. All they want is cheap clothes.
They were here, but they were covered with a small piece of.
It's ridiculous, all these screws.
There's one place we went to, Redesign from Embroidery mentioned, there were two identical TVs, and they were showing us that they were taking them apart from brushing it up. And two identical TVs, one was Philips and one was Samsung.
So made by the same.
Well, no, not made, but they were, to the naked eye, they would take exactly the same black flat screen, and they were LCD, which means that they've got mercury tubes in, which means that you have to take the mercury out before you crush them. So it had to be manually taken apart. And one TV, 300 screws, and you had to keep changing the screw head. There were 18 different screw heads to get through, and that was the Philips TV. And then the other TV was only 150 screws, and they were all identical screw heads. So the difference in taking those apart was completely from one being designed to being taken apart.
You wonder why Ford in the first instance when they're creating these things. Why? What reason would they have to have 18 different types of screws and 300 dollars? Why would something be designed in such a way? Because it makes the manufacture more complex. It makes the assemblage so much longer and more complex.
Yeah, exactly. It's because it's not kind of thought of holistically. It's like, oh yeah, we've got these parts, robots. It's something that kind of gradually builds up, and no one actually sat down and kind of rationalised the interior. And it's a real shame that Apple didn't take this issue more seriously, because I had a look at the inside of the new Apple Pro. It's like a tower thing, £2,500.
Well, the new computer.
Yeah, it's that big. And when you take the outside off, the circuit boards are all on the outside. The circuit boards have been designed, so this is what circuit boards normally look like, green. And these are all black, and everything's black, and it's all designed in patterns, so it's like black, and it looks quite scary, but that's how
said
but
that
it's
she's
very
We're going to come to the end now.
But if they designed it not for
Hopefully we'll look quite far.
when did you buy it?
press the button and everything fell
I'm just
apart.
going to ask you to, if you pop all the tools up together with paper, and then if you place the tools off of the paper, but put all your bits of mobile phone onto the newspaper.
Don't.
So, let's put them together in order. So that one there.
Yeah.
Then that
The
one.
camera that is close. The camera is this. This is the lens of the camera. The camera goes here. This is the
Bottom there.
yeah, it should be here. This is the button.
The back end.
The battery. This is from here.
That's the thingy.
Yeah.
What this is that. So that goes on here, doesn't it? And that's what is on there.
These two here.
And that goes that. Et voilà.
The SIM cards are
Yeah,
only
yeah.
1, 2, 3.
The photo, just set the phone on the phone. There's a circle. Oh, that's from after you get. Oh, there's that. Wherever that was. And then there's that. Thank God I got my bamboo casing on. No, just this gentleman's casing. Maybe not you. Oh, and then all these screws. Oh, no. This one's sticky.
It's a Samsung white model.
It's
A Samsung what?
Model SGJ700, whatever that is.
After 5 minutes in your hands and a set of tools, it became this.
We should have taken a photo of it before. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so we're just going to go through each group and have a look at sort of what you discovered. So we're going to start over there. So if everyone wants to sort of get up and gather. This group is just kind of. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you took apart, what you found, how you did the repair, what materials you found in there? We had two. So we're very proud around destruction. It's quite an old school Nokia. But in terms of issues from repairability, well, I was zero repairability. And BlackBerry, this was your BlackBerry till yesterday.
Kind of on the screws, because that was hard, so we probably use more force than was necessary to quite get the
Yeah.
Oh, even like that.
We loved it. We found this bit, which was so exciting. This is my old iPhone.
It still is.
It's painful to give that away.
Well, I didn't take the screen off because my experience is they do that like where they were. I mean, the experience here is Apple do not make their stuff to sell on there. They make it as different as possible to make it hard. Particularly, well, their phones are worse. Yeah. They've taken every screw with them, and like just about
And what's your experience about it? And that's just the real surface area. And glued as well. So
we can't do that with it. Can you? And if you do, it's basically meant to be replaced as soon as the more you pay it. It's all about.
Okay, so moving this hinge could be put down or anything. A lot of it was glued together.
Realised is that there were only a few screws, so they were just like a few things made, like 2 or 4. But so the screws weren't there for us. They were just something that they hadn't worked out the way to. Mostly blue, yeah. Really tricky.
Okay, great. I'm moving on to this table. I don't know if this table wants to uproot and have a look. So we had a couple of pretty pink phones over here. Yes, so this one here.
The LG flip phone. It got harder the more you went into it. Like there's a couple of screws, but they tend to cover it over with little rubber bits. So you had to pop them off to try and get to them. Yeah, there wasn't loads, and then there was just bits of glue really keeping the circuit board together, but we managed to destroy it.
We were asking ourselves how much of this is put together by robots. Does anyone have any knowledge of that?
We were talking about this as well, and I think it's a combination.
It's a mixture.
People doing some bits of it.
Yeah, because the tinier parts of it, I know it's like daft, you'd think that would be a robot, but with the certain, you know those little connectors that we're talking about, you've got to make sure that those are in place. So certainly, you see pictures of the factory and it's just rows of people and magnifying glasses,
Exactly.
doing those last bits before maybe then that whole model gets kicked into a machine and then.
And do they also have to sort of check it in the process that it's okay so far, sort of thing? Sorry.
Okay, great. And moving on to the next one.
I mean, this is not a Nokia, but it's a Nokia type old school phone. The first screws were relatively easy to locate and take out, and it wasn't too bad getting into it, but very quickly it got tricky, although clearly a hell of a lot easier than the smartphone and the iPhone are now. Quite good.
It does tend to be the older phones are much easier to use. I mean, even just from the case is designed to be switched, you can customise your case, and now you don't even get in anymore. They have changed a lot of the time, but in one of the second versions, which was part of, I remember Philips Cellnets, real brick, and that was impossible. They couldn't get. So I think they were very hard to get into. They sort of got much easier, and it was all about customisation. And now it's gone completely back the other way again.
But now you put your case around.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. And lastly, another pink phone over here.
It's all Nokia. No, Samsung.
Yeah.
Samsung is designed for girls, pink. Yes. It was pretty easy from the beginning because you remove the battery and you have a few, but when you go to the core, it becomes complicated because there are some small screws that have covers, so you couldn't find the cover. It should be somewhere until finally, okay, you pop up the plastic bit and you get the last pieces apart.
But that's all of our screws.
Yes.
It's not a huge number.
Good collection.
Really had to, but they were really good as well. You know, they didn't make it easy to find.
No, the screws are really hard to find.
And we were wondering as well that it was made by humans or machines. I suppose the main boards are, with machines, but the assembly had to be made by people because I don't think that the machine could have this exactly to put the screw in the small, it's really tiny screws.
Soldering.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So a real variety of experiences there, some easier to get into others, some maybe easy to repair than others. So now I think if we all try and gather around this table next, we're going to have a little 10-minute discussion. So then we're going to drag the chairs over. I'm going to hand you over to that.
So, this diagram here, which is a little bit of paper on the table as well, they're the 4 models that we kind of worked out that help us think about how you might redesign some of this stuff. So we've been taking apart shoes and bras and electronics. We've been taking apart all sorts of different kinds of things, and then in order to try and understand how they might not be chucked away, so we've developed these other models. So I thought we'd just go through each of these with regard to the mobile phone and discussion about what we think might work. So top level, we've got design for longevity, design for service, design for remanufacture, and design for materials and recovery. So in terms of design for longevity, has anyone got any thoughts about how, if you had to design a phone tomorrow, if you were a phone company, how would you design a phone to make it last longer? So that people would hang on for it longer. There's phone blocks, phone blocks, which is a concept phone that's now owned by Google, was owned by Motorola, but Google bought Motorola. They haven't got it to market yet, but that's exactly where they're heading. But I think it's quite difficult. It's going to be a very difficult service to get right. You get the price points right and what thing you change. But it's great that we're going to try it out, and I hope it does get to market.
It starts to move towards that, so basically everyone bar Apple now uses the mini USB, and I think they now don't sell chargers with their phones anymore, and you have to request the charger or you buy one separately. We're talking about the charger door, not the cable. So that is starting to make a move. Yes, standardizations improves how you can do it, because there are so many different ways of getting into these things.
Something in pairs. I go through so many mobile phones that I tend to break the screens. And if it's going to cost me £60 for a screen, I will pay around £100.
Exactly, so maybe a modular system would by its nature be easier to fix and repair because it would have to be able to get into it to change them.
So it comes up with buying a screen, maybe buy a screen for £14. So many warnings that if you mess it up, you'll get paid for it. Whereas you sell it on
So what are the issues with making a modular phone? The company's going to make less money from going to buy a phone every 2 years, aren't they?
And that's sort of they've created that current my phone's doing yours is better because it's got this, that. And the whole design piece, Apple sell on the shape and style. All their products have this particular look, don't they? And that just sets them apart from motorway and so on.
Every time that a new icon is going to be launched, we are going to need people sleeping 3 or 4 days, and this will be something that the news, there's no news about that. People are crazy about it, so they are ready to sleep for 4 days to get the news. The first, it's something on the brand or something on the news. It's no news about that, but the news insists to show and are like, oh, I don't have the time to sleep there, but I'm going to call someone. You know, it's just becoming so obsession.
Hyper desirability.
I think also, I've never owned it. I know a lot of people have smashed it. I drop my phone on a regular basis and I don't recommend it. Is it down flights of stairs? It's gone down the concrete? What is it? It's a Nokia. But it's a Nokia smartphone. But I'm constantly seeing people smash them.
But the solution is, this is a bit dropping probably 50 times per month, and this is a £2 case that is safe a lot. I mean, it doesn't look great, but every time that I drop it, at least I've been broken the screen a bit twice. But it has been, oh, luckily I got this, and there are many others.
That's what you're going to say.
The only point I was going to say is that there is a degradation over, say, 2 years in your phone's ability, for instance, battery life. So having a battery life that doesn't have that rapid downhill loss of.
Then you can use to replace the battery.
Yeah.
We're making it easier to replace that.
So maybe you could theoretically, design a phone that was really easy to change the battery, like it is on your alarm clock. It's just that no one's doing it. So would we be happy to move to a leasing model? Is the question.
Is that like when you're in a contract already? You know, if you're buying a contract.
Those of us who are in contracts.
So exactly. I mean, that's generally a 2-year contract. It's quite standard.
Exactly,
One
but
if
if you keep the phone you've got, your quality contract doesn't go down.
Yeah.
So then you're like, well, keep
I may as well.
It does, but you have to ask.
Well, no, sometimes even if you ask them to, I mean, that's the whole thing, but it adds to the whole issue.
We're running out of time, aren't we? I'm sorry. Massively running out of time.
Personally, I find leasing a good idea on something like a phone, because then you can go, actually, I do fancy changing it for some reason or whatever, and then you would be thinking, well, that one's now going to somebody else potentially.
Would it, if you leased it, but you couldn't open it, just in, would that be accepted? Do you know what I mean? In other words, because of the company having the right to say, well, when you bring it back, we'll put a brand new camera in, but we're not going to let you open it without breaking it.
That would make sense though.
I mean, there's lots of different models like another one we've got a picture of is Fairphone, which is good. They're really trying to completely change the system, and they're trying to create a culture of open design and repairability and fixing. So it comes with the iFixit app on your phone, all about repair, and also you're encouraged to fix and repair. So the first thing you have to do is take the battery out, put the SIM in, so that you know where the battery is and how to take it out. So you can change it. It's just a matter of the headset the companies want to change it. So we're running out of time, but hopefully this exercise has shown you the complexity as well. It's not simple. It's human behaviour, it's desirability, it's making people not want to queue up for 4 days outside the Apple store, but actually want a phone that lasts 10 years, but that you've made modular and that you've personalised and made it fit just for you. Maybe I need a better camera than you want, and you want a faster phone than I want, and we make it more personal.
There were some challenges when you could send your phone and the phone is shipped to people in Africa that they need the bike. Is it working? Reliable
That's not happening all the time. Reuse, is another way to extend life. So we need to wrap up, don't we?
Yeah. So I think it's just worth it. So we've had to rush through that bit, but please do take one of those cards home, have a look at those models. And I think the main thing we want you to take away from this is that this isn't just about mobile phones. We've just used this as an example. It's something that we all have in our lives. But what we really want you to do is go away and take this thinking how you can apply to your industry, whether that's fashion, whether that's theatre, whether that's art. There's always stuff that's being produced that you're providing and selling. How can you reassess your services? Could you do a tear down for your industry to make people think a little bit more about what they're doing? So yes, if you have any questions about how this might work for you, please do get in touch. Our email address is on those cards, and if you did want to run a tear down with anything, if you do textiles, packaging, or anything, then always just give advice. So please do get in touch, and yes, I hope that was useful in some way.
Well, we've got a relationship with them right now, and back on the name